He boarded the plane quietly, no entourage, no fanfare, just a man in a navy crewneck and charcoal trousers carrying a worn laptop bag, making his way to seat 2A, first class, fully paid, no apologies for his presence. But taped to the headrest of his seat was a yellow post-it, 3 words scrawled in messy capitals, out of service. No explanation, no apology, just eyes all around watching to see if he'd move, if he'd shrink himself and slide quietly away. So what happens, you ever wonder, when the world expects you to step aside, but you decide to sit still, so still that your silence shouts louder than any protest? What happens when a man who builds the very systems airlines rely on refuses to be erased with a sticky note? You're about to find out, because this isn't a story about a seat. It's about dignity, invisibility, and the quiet courage it takes to remain present when people would rather you disappear. Malcolm Greer, CEO of Greer Core Systems, didn't look like anybody's stereotype of a power player. No gold cufflinks, no logo luggage, just intentional understatement. He stood near the window at Denver International that morning, eyes scanning the blur of business suits, designer bags, the unspoken hierarchy in every nod and glance. He was heading to Baltimore for the Global Infrastructure Integrity Summit, where leaders like him quiet power, the kind that changes things without ever needing a hashtag, met behind closed doors. What most folks didn't know: nearly every airline in North America was running on the encrypted digital veins his company had built. Irony's a funny thing. Even so, there he was, just another black man in a seat some people seemed to think he hadn't earned. He boarded with Zone 1, first class, no mistake, and the gate agent's smile faltered for half a second, but the scanner beeped and Malcolm took his seat. A woman across the aisle in a crisp red coat looked twice, not subtle. The question was always there: do you belong here? He let his fingers trace the stitching of the armrest, grounding himself, when a flight attendant, Riley Monroe, gave him a brief nod. No forced warmth, no dismissal, just a simple acknowledgement. That was rare enough to notice. The plane filled up. Outside, ground crew scrambled, and Malcolm closed his eyes for a moment, letting the low thrum settle his nerves. He didn't see himself as a victim, never had, but you know when people would rather you were somewhere else. The woman in red, Genevieve Locke, pulled out a compact mirror, glanced at Malcolm over her shoulder, and pressed her call button. Riley came by, and Genevieve, in hushed tones, said something about not seeing the usual. Riley's eyes flashed, just for a second, then settled back into professionalism. "I'll double-check for you," she said. Malcolm kept his gaze fixed outside, knowing exactly what was happening. Moments later, another attendant, older, senior, forced cheer, approached. "I'm terribly sorry, sir, but there's been a minor issue flagged with your seat. Internal maintenance." She pointed at the yellow note. No barcode, no tag, just something pulled from a desk drawer. "It's just temporary. We'll reseat you toward the rear." Malcolm looked at her, at the note, then simply said, "I see." He stood, calm, slipped out his phone in the galley, and quietly called his chief engineer. "Andre, it's me. Go dark on Sector Echo now." There was a brief pause, then, "Copy that." RaveNet, the digital control system, was locked. Malcolm returned to the aisle, same calm but something new burning behind his eyes. As he headed back to 2A, Riley stopped him. "Sir, I didn't place that note, and I don't believe there's anything wrong with your seat." Malcolm nodded. "I believe you." That was enough. No drama, just trust. Back in 2A, the purser and captain cornered him. "Captain's orders, sir. Please remain in the galley until maintenance confirms the seat is cleared." Malcolm asked, "Has maintenance been called?" Silence. "It's being handled." "You mean it hasn't?" he replied, still gentle. He sat back down. "I've decided not to yield my seat for an unverified technical concern reported by a sticky note. If you don't comply, we may be forced to delay," said the purser. "It's already delayed," Malcolm replied. "The entire digital control system for this sector has been paused. Nothing will move, no updates, no baggage, no rerouting, until this is resolved transparently and truthfully." Right then, the captain's voice came over the intercom, confusion barely masked. "We're currently experiencing an unexpected delay. Please be patient." You could feel the cabin change, the energy thickened, the way people sense something isn't routine. The captain came out, took the sticky note with a look of disbelief, and turned to Malcolm. "Who are you?" "Passenger 2A. You claim to have shut down a portion of our systems." Didn't claim. Confirmed. Then it clicked, Malcolm Greer. The realization swept the cabin. The captain sat beside him, 2 men, reputation versus uniform. You're really the one behind RaveNet? Yes. This puts our entire rotation into backlog. I know. I don't do this lightly. What do you want? Malcolm nodded at Riley. I want her to tell you what happened, honestly, without fear. Riley told the truth. Genevieve Locke had been uncomfortable with Malcolm's presence and wanted him removed. Riley hadn't called maintenance, but she hadn't stopped it, either. The captain confronted Genevieve, who deflected, but a quick review of the security feed proved it. She'd planted the note. The senior operations director, Mara Dane, boarded to handle things. Malcolm met her in the galley. She started with the corporate apology routine. He cut her off. No scripted apologies, no vagueness. That note wasn't protocol. It was a passenger uncomfortable with my existence. Mara showed him the video evidence. I'll be sending that to myself, Malcolm said. FAA statute makes that material for a discrimination review. She offered a refund, an upgrade, a statement. He refused. I want a written explanation for how a passenger manipulated your staff to remove someone, and why no one challenged her. Mara stiffened. She knew this report would flag their quarterly performance. If you won't protect your passengers, I will protect your record publicly. And before leaving, he made sure the clip reached 2 board members attending the Baltimore summit. Back in his seat, Malcolm sat silent, not upgraded, not erased, a victory louder than shouting. Around him, people were whispering, Googling, watching. Riley told him, they're calling someone from corporate. You could have walked off. If I do, the next person won't be me. They'll get removed and buried in silence. She shared her own story. A passenger once quietly escorted off for refusing to give up her seat, the seat given to a deadheading pilot. They made sure no one said a word. Malcolm said. As Mara left the plane, the story started to spread, first as whispers, then as a Reddit thread, then TikTok clips. Riley slipped a note to the young man in 7C who'd been filming. Truth matters. Document everything. Meanwhile, Genevieve typed up her own version for social media, a sanitized, ambiguous narrative. But Malcolm wrote a statement for his company page. I didn't stay because I wanted attention. I stayed because the alternative was erasure. My seat was not the issue. Your silence was. By landing, the incident had become national news. In the following days, Stellar Atlantic Holdings stock dropped, board meetings convened, and advocacy groups shared Malcolm's letter. The airline issued a full public apology and invited Malcolm to chair a new passenger equity council, independent, with real power. He hesitated, wary of being used as a symbol, but ultimately accepted, with the condition that community leaders have a seat at the table. Within months, the Malcolm Protocol was adopted by several airlines. No more reassigning seated passengers without documentation and approval. One day, Malcolm flew again, this time. No stairs, no notes, just a young attendant thanking him for making her cousin believe he could be a pilot. The captain even announced, on board today, the man who quietly shifted an entire industry. When a boy in the terminal asked, was it scary? Malcolm answered, yeah, but it felt right. As the sun set, Malcolm read a letter from his niece, accepted to college, majoring in aviation economics. Her essay began, my uncle didn't tell me to rise. He showed me how to stay seated and still take flight. The skies outside were wide, open, new. Because in the end, dignity finally got a seat on the plane, and every act of quiet courage plants a seed for someone else's freedom. But let me ask, why does it still take a viral moment for dignity to be respected? Why does skin color still decide who gets to sit in peace? If this story hit home, take a minute to share your thoughts below. What would you have done? Where do you stand when presence is mistaken for a threat? Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and remember, next time, the seat in question might be yours. We'll be here, telling the stories that matter.